The Pacific Ocean, 340 miles off California, is a massive and different environment. Finding anything smaller than a cargo ship in these swells is a near impossibility. Yet on March 14, 2022, the crew of the research vessel Investigator pulled a yellow waterproof camera case from the water with a net. Inside was a memory card. Registration numbers linked the hardware to Leila Sousa, a woman whose official death certificate had been signed in 2013. That the memory card held images time-stamped years after that date. Finding this artifact invalidated a 9-year-old closed timeline. It proved the justice system had certified a death for a person who was still documenting her life. Forensic analyst Dr. James Ito processed the card, recovering the first 846 images. They were ordinary family moments, birthdays, beach trips, and holidays, that ended abruptly in fall 2013. When he reached photograph 847, he found a timestamp from August 2021. Ito sat in the quiet of the lab for 11 minutes, staring at an impossible date. He bypassed the standard reporting chain to call the retired detective who originally handled the disappearance. When Kwan answered, Ito told him, "I think she's alive." This single image contained evidence that forced Kwan to return to the case that had ended his career. Photograph 847 was too complex to view as a single image. The first fragment Kwan examined was a crop of the left-hand corner, a dark-skinned hand holding a camera strap. It matched Leila's physical profile from the 2013 photos. In 2013, Leila had stood at a police intake desk like this one to file a stalking report. The department filed the paperwork but took no action before the statutory response window closed. 6 weeks later, she vanished. When the department failed to find a body, they declared it a homicide to close the books. Detective Kwan refused to sign the report and was forced to resign. The hand in the 2021 photograph proved the department had closed the file on a victim who had refused to wait for her attacker. The second fragment of photograph 847 showed a blurred male figure in the background. Kwan identified the location as Anchor Bay. He then cross-referenced the blurred man's height and build with a secondary witness from the 2013 case, a former co-worker of Leila's who had claimed back then that she'd asked him for help. Forensic ID confirmed the man's identity. Kwan traced the man's recent history and found a pattern of high-security residential leases held in his name across 4 states. He was running an informal relocation network for women in danger. Leila had orchestrated her own disappearance. She utilized a shadow network to vanish because the official police channels were compromised. Kwan used the knowledge of Leila's voluntary escape to re-examine the original suspect list. He stripped away the assumption of her murder and looked for the person she was actually fleeing. He found that the primary 2013 suspect shared exact geographical overlaps with 2 other women who had disappeared in the same regional jurisdiction. Kwan brought the evidence to a multi-agency task force. They located and arrested a man who had been living 40 miles from the original crime scene for a decade. The anomaly in the photograph validated Leila's survival while providing the context needed to identify and remove a systemic threat. Identifying the location and the bystander established the forensic framework, allowing the investigation to focus on the figures at the center of the frame. This is the full, uncropped image. The hand is on the left, the coordinator is in the background. But the true subjects are the 2 teenagers in the center. Those are her children. 8 years after her disappearance, Leila had found a way to watch them grow up from an untraceable distance. This image is a mother's record of her own survival. It is proof that her choice to vanish kept her family intact. The camera traveled 340 miles over 9 years. It reached the forensic lab at the exact moment the technology existed to decipher its coordinates. Leila remains safely anonymous. Her stalker is incarcerated. The memory card sits in a federal evidence storage facility. The camera sits in evidence as a recorded insurance policy, a set of coordinates and faces preserved by the only environment Leila could rely on to keep a secret for 9 years. Institutional failure often dictates the start of a story, but Leila Sousa took control of the end. She left her own evidence behind and waited for the ocean to deliver it.